Good morning, good morning, good morning, wise. Good morning. I wanted to come on for a quick minute. A real quick minute. Good morning. And rant a little bit about something that I'm just very, very, very it's like a pet peeve of mine almost when it comes down to what I do as a wife coach and when coaching wives, especially coaching wives from different cultures or interracial couples where maybe the wife and husband are not necessarily the same race, or they may be interculture, interracial relationship type of thing. I never thought that would be something that I would be so passionate about, but I guess me being married to a man from a different country, it does make me passionate about it. And when I speak with certain wives who struggle with some of the things that I have experienced myself, I like to talk about it. So I want to come on real fast and talk about it. On top of, I wanted to give you a little bit more information about the upcoming event that's coming up in April. Super excited about. But first, I want to share with you a few words and its definitions, right? I want to just share with you a few words. And this is still based off of, Hannah. We still standing on Hannah, for these upcoming weeks. And these are just some of her attributes and some of her characteristics that she have, and why I feel so strongly why God has really, really pointed me in this direction to speak on her as we go into a season of restoration. And so the first word is resistance. Resistance, all right? And resistance simply means the refusal to accept or comply with something. Resistance, all right? The second word is relentlessness. Relentlessness, which is mercilessness and unwillingness to relent or let up. Basically, you are refusing to let up on a thing. You're just refusing to let up on it. The third word is resilient or resilience. Resilient. And this is the ability to withstand adversity and bounce back from difficult life events. Baby, let me tell you, I am the queen of resilience. All right. I am the queen of resilience. When I think about the different trials and tribulations and the things that I have had to experience on this journey as a wife, now going into a new season of business and leadership, the bounce back ministry has been real. All right. It has been real. One of the things I want to just highlight when it comes down to just those three words is that is not something that you just gain overnight. That's just not something that you just get. That is not something that I just woke up like this, right? That is something that I believe God has put in you. And it had been developed over the years and over time as you face different adversities in your life. I believe those are gifts that God have put into a person, and they are developed over time. They are developed through trials. They are developed as you go through different things. Those types of things are developed over time, and when it's time to execute, they come out. Right? When it's time to execute, they come out. So, like I mentioned, a lot of times I coach wives who are married to husbands of different cultures, different races, etc. And this world that we live in is so small-minded when it comes down to well, this is their culture, or oh, this is how their side of the family does it, or oh, this is how things happen on their side. This is what they do back in their country. This is what they do back at home. The church that I go to is a very diverse church, right? We have over 100 different cultures that we commune with on a weekly basis, right? We don't just sit next to African Americans. We don't just sit next to, Caucasians. We sit next to Asians and Chinese and Jamaicans and Nigerians. And we sit next to numerous types of cultures in our church. And I think me attending that church, I've been in that church almost 10 years now. I think me attending that church has really, really helped me to see and understand when it comes down to culture and covenant. Because so many people believe that, well, because this is this person's culture, as if it's an excuse or a reason why a person can come in and devour that relationship or that marriage like they want. Because this is a culture thing, this person can come in and do what they want. My son dates a person that is not the same race as us. And I tell him all the time, the day y'all get married, I can no longer put my mouth on y'all relationship. The day that y'all say I do to each other, I no longer have a say when it comes down to your relationship. And so many times, I remember doing a video back in the day where I used to talk directly to the parents of, spouses, just telling them to mind their business, right? To mind their business, not to just the parents, but just the families. You are trying to interrupt or get in between what God has joined together. And when you come between covenant, you have to understand that that person who is a representative of Christ and who God has told to stand or stay in that type of marriage, and you are counseling them or coaching them or mentoring them or, giving them advice on how they should manage their marriage, either staying, going, leaving, how to get out of this. When you get involved in covenant, you have to understand that you're not just coming up against that person that your spouse is married with. You're coming up against the whole heaven's army. You're coming up against the whole heaven's army. And so many times people think it is okay for your families to have something to say about your marriage covenant, that it's okay for your well, this is a culture thing, we don't do that here, we do this here. When it comes down to the covenant, it's not about the culture. When it comes down to the covenant and what God has joined together, it has nothing to do with the culture, right? And so one of the things that the Lord had placed in my spirit, and what I had been, really getting, just from, some of the sessions I've been having, is that the enemy is using family members, parents of spouses, for, some of the wives that, are going through these difficult situations and going through this hardship. The enemy is using a word called desensitize. And what desensitize means is to make emotionally insensitive, callous, which is a hardness, to make this person emotionally disconnected, to make this person completely hardened towards their spouse. And you have to know, whoever has your ear, and y'all know I share this with y'all all the time, whoever has your ear have your attention, right? Whoever has your ear have your attention. But this is why I'm such a big believer on why wives should continuously cover their marriages, cover themselves, cover their families, even while going through a difficult season, even while going through a hardship. Now, you do not have to force something that's already been enforced by God. Let me say that again. You do not have to force something that has already been enforced by God. If you see yourself forcing something, you may want to check and see, is this something that you're supposed to be doing? right? Is this something that you're supposed to be doing? Because like I always say, I am that wife coach who I do not necessarily coach every wife. There is a specific wife that I coach. And this wife that I coach, she is the one who knows that God has given her specific instructions to stay or stand in this unhealthy marriage. She knows that God has given her specific instructions. So if you find yourself forcing something, you may want to check and see if this is something that you're supposed to be doing. Right? You do not have to force anything that has been enforced by the Lord. If you know that God is backing you when it comes down to your marital covenant, if you know that God has told you to do a thing, if you know God has told you to stand still and do exactly what I have told you to do, you don't have to force anything, right? You do not have to force anything. People have to understand it doesn't matter what a person's mama say, sister say, brother say, auntie them say, cousins them say. None of that stuff matters when you have God and the whole army of heavens working on your behalf. It doesn't matter what anyone else has said. It doesn't matter the influence that's being placed in this person. It doesn't matter what they're saying to this person. When God has your back, the Bible reminds us, if God be for us, then who can be against us, right? If God be for us, who can be against us? It is time out for family members, for people to involve themselves in covenant as if you was there in the room when God spoke to that wife about her marriage, about her spouse. You don't then get the right to come and influence that person and tell that person this and that to use against your marriage and think that God does not see or hear, that God does not know, that God is not aware of what you're doing. You don't get to interfere with covenant. I'm not going to get worked up today. I feel my toes. You don't get to do that. You was not there when God and that woman had that conversation concerning that marriage. You was not there. You did not participate in that conversation. You was not there to hear what thus said the Lord concerning that marriage. And so to use your influence or whatever influence, it's not necessarily just a family. This goes back to the strange woman as well. This goes back to the other woman. This goes back to, whoever is in his ear, whoever is speaking in his ear to cause him to come against his covenant, to desanitize, to be desensitized to his marriage covenant. You have to know if you have any part of that. Come on, Jesus. If you have any part of that and you are participating in giving this person counsel on how to handle his marriage, on what he should do about his marriage, and God has divinely chosen that wife to stand in that unhealthy marriage, and God has divinely chosen that wife to be there, and you put your mouth on that covenant, may the mercy of the Lord be with you. May the mercy of the Lord be with you, right? Psalms 105 and 8-11 says, He has remembered His covenant forever, the word which He commanded to 1,000 generations. God is a covenant keeping God. And so what the world thinks about marriage? So what how the world may look at marriages and judge marriages? So what how people may view marriages and their opinions about marriage? So what? It does not change the mind of God when it comes down to marriages. God is the creator of marriage. God ordained marriages. God is the person in charge of that marriage, not you. All right? Marriages is a God-sealed covenant, for Jesus teaches that God himself joins the husband and the wife together. So how then do you come in between what God has joined together? How then do you come in between what God has said, thus said? How then do you get to place your influences, your witches, your witchcraft, your schemes, your agenda, your tactics, your counsel, how do you get to put your plan together to come against a marriage that God has joined together, to come against a husband and wife that God has joined together? You don't get to do that. It doesn't matter the culture. It doesn't matter the race. It doesn't matter, oh, this is how I grew up. It doesn't matter, this is what I was learning. It doesn't matter. You don't get to come in between what God has joined together. Mark 10:8-9 said, and the two shall become one flesh. There is no other relationship on earth that are joined together in the spirit outside of a husband and wife. Even your child. Yes, you may carry that child for 9 months. Yes, that child is in your belly for 9 months. But once that child is out of your belly, you and that child will no longer experience that ever again. You and your child are not spiritually connected like you and your husband is. Not even you and your child. The only relationship that is joined together spiritually outside of your relationship that you have with Christ, outside your relationship that you have with your Heavenly Father, is a husband and a wife. So how do you then on the outside influencer get to speak your nonsense in this person's ear concerning their marriage, which God has joined together? They are no longer two, but they are united as one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, what God has united together, man must not separate by divorce. I have shared on many of my videos, on much of my content I share, you better be real careful about putting your mouth on a woman of God who is praying for her marriage and who God has told her to, let's go back to this, be resistant, relentless, and resilient. You better be real careful about placing your tongue on what God has said will be. You better be careful about putting your words and giving counsel to a person, to a married man. Come on, parents. Come on, siblings. Come on, aunties and them. Come on, friends. You better be real careful about what you say concerning another person's marriage. God is a God of covenant. God seals the covenant. What God has joined together, let not man separate. And I just want to just end with saying this again. If God is in it, it does not have to be enforced. Because so many times people think, God hates divorce, God hates divorce. And he does. And he does. And this is why I'm so big on making sure that you understand your role, that you understand your place, that you understand this is what God has called you to do. Wife, do not help the enemy. Do not help the enemy disconnect you from your husband. Do not engage in the foolery that the enemy is. One of the things that my mentor, she used to always share with me. She would always share with me. She would always say, study to be quiet. Study to be quiet. Watch, look, watch, wait, listen. Watch, wait, listen. And sometimes that can be very, very hard to do when you're not seeing nothing happening. That can be very, very hard to do when you're not seeing no results. That can be very, very hard to do when things seem to be getting worse than better. That can be very, very hard to do when you're not seeing any changes and it's looking like this party has the upper hand concerning this matter. This party is seeming like they have more influence over what's taking place in your marriage. But God said, I need you to be steadfast. I need you to be steadfast in this season. You remain resistant, relentless, right? Resilient. That is your position. Because those three things will take down that spirit of desensitizement. That would take down that spirit. The enemy is using other people, even family members, to come in and to tear apart what God has joined together. The enemy is using culture. The enemy is using race. The enemy is using influences, outside influences, to come and tear down what God has joined together. I don't care what the world say about marriage. The marriage covenant is still honorable among everyone. You go look it up. If you go right now and Google how serious and how big of an idea and why so many people still to this day want to be married. It is one of the most honorable places to be in. And for a person to come in to use their words, to use their influences to desensitize, to get that person's ear, for that person to harden their heart towards their wife, towards their children, towards their household, you better be real careful. Because you don't know what that wife is doing behind closed doors. You don't know what that wife is saying to the Lord behind closed doors. And that's all I have to say about that. Okay? God is a covenant keeping God. Hello. God is a covenant keeping God. And what God has joined together, let not man separate. I don't care about your culture. I don't care about your race. I don't care what you do in other countries. I don't care what you did back home. I don't care, oh, this is how we did growing up. I don't care about that. When the kingdom takes over, it doesn't matter. None of that stuff matter. And this is what wives have to get to. They have to get to a place where they understand and they realize that it's not just about my husband, my marriage. You are fighting against generations. You are fighting against curses. You are fighting against altars. You are fighting against all these types of things that's coming against not just you, but against your bloodline, against your children, against your children's future. You got to get in place. This is not just about me focusing on my husband. Because God already said what he said to you about your husband. He have already given you the promise concerning your husband. What you got to do is get focused and get right for yourself. So you will know how to withstand. Go back to Ephesians 6, how you know how to withstand the schemes of the devil. You know how to withstand his agenda. You know how to withstand those things. So when they come and throw those darts at you, when those arrows try to form, they will not be able to prosper. Come on, Jesus. Because you know what you and God have already discussed in the background. Faith has to be sealed, tight, shut in this season. Because the enemy is working overtime. And he's using whoever he can. At one point, it was just a strange woman. It's a strange woman. It's the family members. It's the drugs. It's the alcohol. It's work. It's whatever. People want to be famous. People want to have money. He's using whatever he can. He's using whatever he can. And if you're not strong enough, if you don't got that resilient, that bounce back ministry, if you don't have that working on your behalf, if you don't have that, you better ask God to give it to you. If you plan on standing on these side of the streets, if you plan on standing on these side of the streets and you plan on doing things this way, you better ask God to build you up in that way. For you to have that spirit of resistance, that spirit of relentlessness, that spirit of resilience. Restoration is your portion. It don't matter what other people are saying concerning your marriage, but they better be careful. When you've been divinely chosen to do something, and you was not in the room when God had this conversation with me, and you was not there when God gave me these specific instructions, but you have the audacity to give my husband, to give my spouse information concerning our marriage, when you're trying to desensitize his heart and harden his heart and teach him how to harden his heart towards his family and towards his children, and you don't know what God has said to me, you better be careful. That's not a threat. That's not a threat. God is a covenant keeping God. God is a covenant keeping God. And what God has joined together, let not man separate. Stand 10 toes down on that wife. Period. That's it. Because I don't want to get worked up. Because I'm real sensitive about that subject, about that topic. Because I have been persecuted as a wife for many, 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 many years. And I know the hardship of trying to stand up against something that's strong. Trying to stand up against. And I would say things like, you think I'm doing this by myself? You think I just showed up here by myself? You think that I'm just here standing by myself? I have an army of angels surrounding me right now as I speak. Because there's no way a person can do this in their own strength. Don't let these people be out here fooling you, speaking illness over your marriage and saying things to you about your marriage, and you know God has told you differently. Go back and read the story of Hannah. She didn't even let her own husband put that foolishness in her. Am I not enough? You don't need a son. Am I not enough? Hannah had a divine. She had a divine seed on the inside of her. She could not release that. Whatever that she had a divine desire on the inside of her. She could not release that. And she couldn't release that because it was not given to her on her own. God placed that in her. You can't sit here and say, oh, I'm standing for my marriage. I'm believing God for my marriage. And God didn't put that in you. Because every marriage is not going to be restored. Every marriage is not going to come back together. But you know, if God placed a seed in you and you know God has told you to do a thing, don't let these people come and speak illness over you. My spiritual mama, she will always tell me, she say, God done allowed the devil to open up his mouth and tell me his whole plan. Wives, you got to be, how do you say it? Soft as a dove, but something as a serpent. I got to find that by reverse. Listen, you got to be on your A game in these days, because the enemy ain't playing fair. Okay, the enemy ain't playing fair. I gotta put this by reverse up. Soft as something as a dove, but strong as a serpent. Wise, soft as a dove and wise as a serpent. Soft as a dove and wise as a serpent. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. Y'all better turn up y'all discernment in this season. You better learn how to study to be quiet. You better sit back and ask God to open up your ears. And Lord, don't let me miss your instructions. Don't let me miss something that you're trying to give me. Don't let me miss what you're saying to me. Don't let me miss. The enemy is creating a whole plan to devour you, to devour your marriage, to tear down your family. But God has placed a seed on you, in you, and He has told you to stand for this. He has told you to hold your head up in this. Stop dancing and playing with the enemy. Stop tiptoeing around this situation like, oh, okay, well, I'm just standing for my husband, and get busy in kingdom affairs. Get busy with the assignment that God is calling you to. Get busy. I tell wives all the time, if you spend that time with God and you spend that time with God on a regular, He will give you every secret, everything that you need to know about your enemy. He'll let you know ahead of time. This is why I'm big on what that is. Psalm 35. God contend with those who contend against me. Fight those who try to fight me. Come against those who's trying to come against me. How you going to come against somebody's covenant? How you going to put your mouth on somebody else's marriage? And you don't know what the conversation God is having with that wife. You don't even know necessarily the conversation, because if the truth be told, you don't even know the conversation that the Lord is having with that husband. He's not telling the truth. He ain't telling the whole truth. If the truth really be told, you don't know the conversation that God has had with that man. You don't know the words and the warnings that God has sent to that man. And you had the audacity to counsel this person. You had the audacity to come up against covenant. You had the audacity. Okay. What God has joined together, let not man separate. What God has joined together, let not man separate. I don't care what it look like, what it seem like, what it feel like. God will back you 1,000% if He's the enforcer in this. If He's the one who told you to do this. If He's the one who told you to proceed. This is why I always say, get connected with the right source, so you will know that you are on the right side of the field. So you will know that this is what you're supposed to be doing. So you will know I am being placed in this position. This is where I'm supposed to be. I am on a line. I'm in alignment with the will of God, because that's the safest place for me to be concerning my life. You don't have no control of what people say, but baby, God hears all, sees all, and knows all. He's everywhere, and He will take care of you. So listen, I want you guys to go get your friend and your friend and your friend and your other friends, okay? Whether they are wise or not. If they're going through a hardship, if they're dealing with some kind of lack of self-care, if they're going through a, relationship, battle, or some kind of relationship challenges, if they're dealing with some kind of women challenges. A lot of women I have been, speaking with lately, going through some kind of pre-menopause stages, going through menopause stages, dealing with the chemical imbalance. If they, their skin is breaking out because of stress. If they, they're having trouble, eating, if they need to get on a workout plan. If they are in a place where they say, you know what, I'm ready to get my life together and build my own empire. I'm trying to get myself together. If they're trying to figure out, this thing called life. God, what is the assignment that you have for my life? I've been going through all this hardship. I've been going through all these challenges, and I'm ready to get in a better place. Go get her and get her to this retreat. All right. Go get her and bring her to this retreat that we're having here in the Atlanta metro area. All right. In the Atlanta metro area. Retreat her. Come learn how to retreat yourself. Come learn how to take care of yourself. The naysayers, they gonna be out there. They gonna say what they gonna say. They gonna do what they gonna do. God has a plan for you. You need to learn how to take care of yourself, how to prioritize yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically as you continue to trust God on this journey, as you continue to go forward with what He has told you to do, right? Get here to this retreat in the month of April 26th to the 28th, 2024. It is a 3 days, 2 night stay, and you go to Eventbrite to purchase your ticket. The only information I have on there as far as the ticket price is for the activities, the workshop, the ceremony. The hotel fee is separate. The hotel fee is separate. Once you purchase your ticket, you will be able to connect with me, and I will give you the link. I will give you the link where you will be able to get the rooms at a discounted price. The rooms are like only $149 a night. I've been telling wives, listen, you can do a whole getaway trip for less than $1,000, right? Less than $1,000. Come get around other like-minded women who can pour into you. It won't just be Coach T there. My life coach will be there. I have some grief coaches that's going to be there. I have some relationships coaches going to be there. I have a self-care strategist going to be there. I have a couple of physicians going to be there. I have some skincare coaches that's going to be there. I have some guest speakers that's going to be there. And listen, we're going to come together. We're going to come together as women. That ceremony, that sunflower ceremony, which is one of the things that I'm hosting, to come together and just give women an opportunity to restore, rejuvenate, regain, reclaim, get her life back, right? Repent, return, turn back to the things that God is calling you to. This is the opportunity for you, wife. This is the opportunity for you, woman. Go get your girlfriend, your mama, them, your sister, them, any of them who have been struggling and going through something hard concerning their life, and they're ready to turn and do things God way. Bring them to this event. All right. The information I have already posted on YouTube, also on my Facebook. You can go and get the information there. Go to Eventbrite. The flyer is there. The information is there. Get the early bird special. It's an early bird special that we're having up until Valentine's Day. I think the day after Valentine's Day, the early bird special is over. So get the ticket for the early bird special ahead of time so you can go ahead and secure yourself. You need to get away and get your mind back on track with where God is taking you at. Where God's taking you at in this year, you want to be ready for it. You want to be ready for it. And I want to encourage you. Listen, wives, if you are ready to do your own personal work, I want to encourage you to sign up for your consultation today. You can do so at www.marriagechroniclesbytanika.com. Listen, it is Self-Care Saturday. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Self-Care Saturday, and I'll talk to you soon. Blessings.